Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for another installment in Media Post webinar series. I'm Mike Winkleman, Content Director for Bespoke by Media Post, and we have a great presentation and discussion for you all today put together by our friends at Reveal. Media Post webinars bring together the media, marketing, and advertising community to learn more about the methodologies and technologies that make effective business possible across a variety of categories, brought to you by our industry's top solutions providers, marketers, and practitioners. Leading today's webinar will be Dan Dillon, Reveal's CMO, who will be joined by Monica Ho, CMO of Sochi, a marketing platform built for multiple location brands. Dan and Monica's focus today, how to make foot traffic attribution work for paid social, is especially relevant. Remarkably, while 90% of retailers currently buy ads on Facebook and Instagram, and while advertisers are spending countless ad dollars on such platforms as TikTok, Snapchat, and Twitter, foot traffic attribution for stores with multiple locations remains a challenge. In the course of this presentation, Dan and Monica will help you understand how consumers are using social to discover new products, how to delight but not overwhelm your target audience, how to drive customer acquisition using location signals, and answering a primary question here, how to use custom audiences to measure foot traffic attribution. This is all tremendously important information, and I, for one, have been looking forward to hearing what they've got to tell us. Before we get started, just a reminder, after the presentation, we'll have some time for a Q&A session. You can submit your questions at any time during the presentation in the question box that you'll find in the GoToWebinar interface on your screen. With that, let's bring in Dan to get things going. Dan, take it away.
Thanks, Michael. Appreciate the introduction. Great to see everybody today. Thank you so much for joining us to talk about really two near and dear topics to our hearts here at Reveal and at Sochi, paid social and measuring attribution offline. So these are really powerful channels and powerful results. And we hope to unpack for you in the next 30, 45 minutes, all the ways you can think about that, and of course, all the ways you can execute on that. So let me jump in actually and just kind of talk through the agenda. But first and foremost, I just want to call out Sochi and our gratitude for being able to present with you today, Monica. It's great to have you with us.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
So we're going to talk all about the retail climate. We're going to talk about the consumer journey. And importantly, we're going to talk about meeting consumers where they are, both emotionally and frankly, physically, of course, because we know in-store shopping is paramount here in this discussion. And then we're going to talk about all the ways you can measure foot traffic attribution in the context of paid social, which is famously difficult, right? Because the nature of the walled garden and because the nature of pixels are what they are, this is a little bit of a magic trick, right? To measure offline behavior relative to paid social spend. So we're going to show you ways to do that, ways to think about that, certainly. And then we're going to wrap it up with a hypothetical but real world campaign example to bring it all to light. Frankly, hopefully giving you ideas along the way that you can just steal and use, maybe later today, maybe tomorrow, next week. But the goal of this webinar is to be practical as well as strategic. And that's, of course, why we have our friends at Sochi with us today. And just as important as any content we could deliver are the questions you have to ask. So as Michael said, anytime you have questions for us, pop them into the questions box, and Monica and I will be delighted to talk through answers to those at the end of today's session. So with that, let me just set some context with a couple of data points from recent media to give you a sense for where consumers' heads and hearts are right now and how the market is responding to those impulses we're having. So what you're looking at is a chart from NPD Group that shows you in-store shoppers in blue and online shoppers in green. And this is just a 2-year look at behavior before the pandemic was even a figment of our imaginations. Right down to the middle, you can see April of 2020. Basically, we know this story, but it's interesting to see it visualized. An equal number of us were shopping in store as we're shopping online. Of course, we had to. That was the nature of the beast. But now, interestingly, here's what's happening as the pandemic is easing and we're all vaccinated and we're boosted and the variants are proving, thankfully, to be not quite as treacherous as Delta was. We're going back to stores. 64% of us, as of September at least, are going back to in-store shopping. And about 36%, a little bit better than what we were doing before the pandemic, are still shopping online. Consumer behaviors have changed beyond a shadow of a doubt. More of us who didn't shop online before are still doing it today. We know that's not going to change. But just as many of us, almost, who were shopping in store before the pandemic are going back for that experience. So it's interesting to see how our confidence levels, while low, are not at historical lows, and how that's reverberating in the market. So what you're looking at here is a conference board chart showing consumer confidence index looking back way further than 2019. We're looking back to the Great Recession of 2008, 2009, and you can see consumer confidence bottomed out, right? It was at historical lows. 100 is the index, is sort of your standard, right? Your standard norm, and it was in the basement in 2008, 2009. Fast forward to the pandemic, it took a major hit, right? It dropped well below 100. Consumer confidence was easily shaken, understandably so. The Delta variant came, it took another hit. It was super bumpy throughout 2020, 2021. Omicron hit, it took another hit, right? It dropped again, but look at the historical perspective to 2008. Consumer confidence is low, but it's nowhere near during the last downturn as low as it was. So it's interesting to see that our confidence levels are much more durable today, even in the light of this horrible pandemic, than it was rather, 10 or 14 years ago in this case. So historical perspective is obviously very valuable. And how is the market responding? Well, they're opening stores at an historical clip. The NRF is reporting, as of last year, twice as many stores opened as the number that closed. 8,000, better than 8,000 stores opened last year. NPD Group, a research organization that studies consumer behavior and the market's response, is talking about the importance of physical stores being at historical levels again, right? We need this retail therapy. We are hungry, as they say, for the experience of in-person shopping, right? It solves all kinds of emotional needs for us, as well as of course, material needs, naturally. And the Times, only a couple days ago, was talking about, of course, historical inflation, 40-year highs, can't stop us. We are spending with a vengeance on things we need, of course, but we're also spending on things we don't need but just want. So really, with all of these headwinds, nothing is slowing us down in terms of getting out to stores and spending money on things we need and want. So with that, let me turn the attention over to Monica and have you walk us through, Monica, the consumer journey and how that's changing.
Thanks, Dan. Love this topic. And as Dan mentioned, consumers and their shopping confidence and their willingness to get back to it is definitely back again. And consumers are shopping more than ever. And with the added usage and comfort of digital channels, the consumer journey has been forever changed. So what was once a very intense and linear, process, if you look here to the left, from awareness to consideration to purchase in the shopping journey, is now something, if you go to the next click, Dan, something that's kind of more cyclical. It's always on. We're seeing that the consumer journey has no real starting or stopping point now, which is why a circle and not this linear path. And that's happening now more than ever because our shopping experience is now very hybrid. We don't just online shop or just offline shop. We do them kind of simultaneously. And so what's happening is shopping is becoming a little bit more serendipitous, a little bit more integrated into our daily lives. And why this is happening is sometimes you're just maybe checking up on the news or checking in on your friends on a social network, and a post or maybe a post from a business or an ad catches your eye, and you're in a shopping process, even though you didn't intend to. So if you go to the next slide, what has happened as a result is that consumer shopping process, that journey, now starts well before even our intent to purchase. So we have become very familiar and very comfortable with channels like search. I have a need, I need to fulfill that need. What am I gonna do? I'm gonna put a keyword into my phone and Google is gonna tell me where to go. Great. So I can get needs fulfilled very easily online. Now, whether or not I shop and complete that conversion online or go offline, that's kind of where this kind of splits up. But if you go to the next click, Dan, what we're seeing more and more, yes, people are finding what they need. But with the supplement or complement now of social channels, in addition to being able to find what we already need, we're discovering new needs every day through social channels. And I have a very important stat I want to tell you, but before that, we're going to poll the audience. We want to know if you know, if you had to think about what percentage of consumers discover new products and services via social channels every day, what do you think that percentage is? Do you think it's only 10% of consumers, maybe 25%, 50, 75%, or is it as high as 90%? Again, this is, think about your significant other, right? And I say that just because my husband yells at me all the time for shopping on social. I was just at another partners conference, and I was standing in line at Starbucks, and I ended up buying a swimsuit because it was just so damn easy and it was so targeted to me. But anyway, we'll give you a few more minutes to complete your answers. And then we'll get to the results.
Looks like we've got just about everybody voting here, Monica. We'll wait another few seconds to let folks round out their answers. I'm sure they're debating feverishly about what the right answer is. Let's see what comes in. We'll give it 2 more seconds. All right, ready for the results?
Let's show them. Wow, you guys are pretty accurate. That's correct. So 75% of consumers are now discovering new products and services every day via social. That kind of blew my mind. And again, for those of you that have, younger kids in the house, or maybe you yourself are younger or have, spouses that shop a lot online, you're probably the ones that got 75% right. But this is a tremendous stat for those marketers and those businesses out there. If you are investing a lot in search because you want to be found when somebody has a need, why aren't you doing the same thing in social if 3 out of 4 consumers are discovering a new product or service there every day? It's just an opportunity you can no longer ignore. If you go to the next slide, Dan, this is one of my favorite slides because it really kind of encapsulates how hard the marketing job is now, because there's so many darn channels that we need to be available in, and make sure that we can meet that consumer where they're at, right? So we just talked about business discovery. If you really want to leverage these digital social channels and get consumers to discover your products and services more, you really need to be in social. The primary channel for that discovery still today is Facebook. And a lot of people say, well, what about Instagram? What about some of these other sites? The reality is Facebook is still the main driver here, because this is still the largest platform where the most business engagement is happening. Now, others like Instagram, Twitter, you've got TikTok coming up. They are definitely growing in their influence, but they pale in comparison to the vast amount of discovery still happening on Facebook. Now, I'm not saying just do Facebook. Like I said, all those other channels are important too. What I want to mention here is outside of Facebook and social channels, your search is still a really important channel for discovery. Discovery is still happening there as well. And then your business website. So all channels that are really important. If you flip to the right of this chart, when people are actually looking for research, I have a need, now let me research my options. Of course, search dominates here, but look what's second. Social is becoming the #2 channel that consumers are researching when they have a need. So again, outside of just discovery, social is a really important factor, and to make sure that your brand is there, it's present when those consumers are researching. I'll give you another stat. So I just used this at another conference. If you look at the demographic of consumers age 16 to 24, that demographic is actually turning to social more frequently than search to research upcoming products and service purchases. So that's just a stat. That's a trend that we're definitely seeing, but something to be aware of as a marketer, and really emphasizes why social has to be complementing your strategy. It's not, do I do search or social? Which one do I do? You need to be doing both. And then look what's underneath social. You've got consumer review sites, Q&A, live chat, etc. So really hope this emphasizes kind of the need for you to be placing your brand, not just in search, but other channels like social. So we just talked about the importance of having your brand in social and how everybody is kind of, getting back to that shopping process. And we're a lot more comfortable with digital channels, right? So now that everybody's rushing into these channels, how do you really differentiate your product and service or your messaging from everybody else? And if you go to the next slide, Dan, what this comes down to is really leveraging some of the really cool techniques that you have in digital channels, like localization. So if you are a consumer that's just, maybe you're just on a social network checking in on your, your friends, and maybe you're posting a little bit, you can get quickly inundated if there's a lot of content on your wall that's not really targeted to you. And when that information isn't targeted, we choose, or sometimes subconsciously, we just ignore it. It's not interesting enough to even stop to look at it. However, if you take the time to really craft that message to be a little bit more personalized to that person, that's really where you can, get them to take notice, get them to stop and engage with you. And a really powerful way to do that is to localize your messaging. And I don't care if you are a hardware store, or you could be, maybe you sell carpet cleaning and duct cleaning. All of these products and services can be localized. For instance, this is a good example. Ace Hardware. We have Ace Hardwares all over the place. They're national. They're in your local community though, and they're seen as typically a local hardware store, but they're a big national name, Ace Hardware. So if you're talking about, let's say Ace Hardware wants to talk about their great line of premium paint, if they just talk about the paint, that's not that interesting to me. We're getting up to the spring season now. A lot of people are spring cleaning, and they can start to craft their message to their local communities by saying, hey, here are some of the more popular colors in your community. There's a lot of different ways you can do that. And by the way, your local Ace retailer will deliver the paint to your home. Buy online, pick up in store, or buy online, deliver to your door, that type of thing. So localization can help your consumer go from feeling inundated with too many messages to being really interested in what you have to offer. If you go to the next slide, for businesses, this is very helpful as well, because if you can localize your message and really hone in on the audience you're talking to, these channels like social really help you to not only connect with consumers that like your product today, but also help you connect with help you connect with other consumers that will probably like your product as well, because their friends like it or their network likes it. So it's a really great channel to extend your reach of that consumer base that already likes what you're doing. Okay, so we've got another poll, and this one's a really important one. This is about, so we talked about all this great discovery that's happening on social, but what about conversions? Are people actually buying things on social? I say yes, but if you had to say a percentage of what percentage of consumers do you think are actually making purchases via social media today, what do you think that is? Is it 15%, 30%, 50%? 70% or 85%. So we'll give you a little bit more time.
This one requires a little more deliberation, I think, because this is where the rubber meets the road, right?
That's right. I think a lot of people think that maybe somebody would see something on social, but they wouldn't actually go through and purchase something. But right. Yeah, there's definitely some thoughts about that.
No doubt. We'll give it another 5 seconds and let folks get their final votes in here. All right, here's the results.
Wow. So the majority of you got this right at 36%. So 36% of you said that 1 out of 2 consumers now make a purchase on social, and that's right, 50% of social users are now making purchases on social media. And that includes organic and paid. If you look at paid social is extremely effective, with 1 out of 3 social users having made a purchase via an ad. And the reason why that percentage is so high is because if you guys, I'll be honest, I don't know the difference sometimes between an organic post and a paid post from a consumer standpoint. It all looks like content. The big difference though between organic and paid is organic, you're not going to be able to reach as large of an audience if you're only relying on organic. If you've got a really great offer or something that's already getting conversion in organic, you absolutely should be paying to promote that. There's a stat that we like to talk about because we have a lot of partners that just do organic. They're very much bought into that, and it's a great strategy. But if you study the amount of reach you get by just doing organic and organic alone, the average percentage of your audience that you're reaching, the community that actually already likes you, is between 2 to 3%, and that's it. And that happens because these social networks, they want to get those organic posts out if your consumers really like them or they're sharing, they're commenting on them. But a lot of these channels are paid to play as well. And they just don't want to give everything away. They want to make sure that, you know, they're getting a little bit something for the reach they're giving you as well. So understand that social is largely becoming this pay to play channel. And if you really want to leverage the mass amount of audiences, targeted audiences that are there, you do need to supplement your organic with paid. Okay, so if we go to the next slide, Dan, what's really interesting about social and you know, just the increase in usage we've been seeing. When COVID first hit, I think there was a lot of talk about COVID actually being the death of brick and mortar retail. I remember seeing tons of articles about that. And, you know, if you looked at some of Dan's stats, I mean, that just wasn't true, right? Brick and mortar is alive and well, and it's always going to be around. I think, again, as marketers, we need to understand that the way that consumers shop is hybrid. Sometimes we want to be online, sometimes we want to be offline, sometimes it's going to be a dual experience, and that's okay. We should complement the two of those and use them, you know, to effectively promote our brand, our products, our services. So what we've now seen with all the changes in the way that consumers are shopping, their shopping behavior, is although brick and mortar storefronts are living on and they're very, very powerful, successful businesses will learn to extend that consumer shopping experience through social storefronts, right? For all the reasons that we've already talked about. So again, just really want to emphasize the fact that if you're not already leveraging social today in both an organic and paid way, you're really leaving a lot of opportunity on the table. And this is such an exciting opportunity for digital marketers. I'm going to turn it back to Dan because he's going to talk a little bit about how you can start, you know, really honing in on our audiences and targeting them in social to complement what you probably are already doing in other channels and offline.
Thanks, Monica. I appreciate that. And your point about organic versus paid and social being a pay-to-play channel is really going to carry us through the next several next slides we're going to talk through as a portion of the webinar. And so organic is critical, never give it up, but the paid piece is really where the upside, the opportunity is in terms of monetization, and then of course expanding your customer base ultimately. So for the purposes of illustration, I just want to pick on, since it's the spring and we're all thinking about swimsuits, certainly Monica's buying swimsuits from the checkout line herself. Let's talk about the gyms and fitness segment here for a minute, just for the sake of illustration. And in the context of that vertical, I want to pick on intent for a moment and talk about the different ways you can use location signals as a way to meet the consumer where they are literally, physically, and of course, you know, emotionally and materially. So Planet Fitness is a brand we love in our family. It's just up the street. Thousands of locations around the country, like Ace Hardware. It's a national chain. So the first thing Planet Fitness could do, and this is low-hanging fruit and probably seems obvious, but I just want to set the bar where it needs to be set. Planet Fitness could geofence their own stores or their own units, and just like a cookie follows you from website to website, your mobile device is obviously pinging location events, assuming you've opted into location services. And so if you go to Planet Fitness on any kind of periodic basis, you're going to get pinged while you're inside the gym. So by geofencing those locations, Planet Fitness can now remarket or retarget you and say, you know what, we love the fact that you're so fit, keep coming back, you're doing the right thing, you know, keep on keeping on. You got the cheapest customer you can get, it's the one you've already got. You're going to promote loyalty that way to keep that customer base from drifting away. And, you know, if you want to grow off the back of your existing membership, have them bring a friend and, you know, comp them the membership fee or something like that. So these are easy things that Planet Fitness can do, or frankly, any business can do with a membership kind of a monetization model. So to go one layer deeper, actually 2 layers deeper, there's 2 really interesting things that Planet Fitness can do with location data as an intent signal. The second one is about stealing market share from the competition. So in the upper right-hand corner of your slide, we're talking about Geo Conquesting. So this is a situation where Planet Fitness could take all of the mobile ad IDs that have visited 24-Hour Fitness or Orange Theory or Crunch, which focuses on small group classes, and target those gym goers. They're already in market. They're already working out. They're just going to the wrong gym, right? So target those audiences who are going to 24-Hour, who are going to Orange Theory, and give them a better price point, or give them a cleaner gym, or give them state-of-the-art equipment, right? These are great ways to steal share from people who you know already are giving up a share of their wallet for working out. So it's an easy way to acquire new customers. So Geo Conquesting is a proven strategy in terms of using location data as a signal. And we're going to talk in a minute about using all of this on social, and that's where the rubber meets the road again. So strategy 2, Geo Conquest. Number 3, just as valuable, less obvious, is using a geofencing platform or geofencing technology, whatever it might look like, to understand all the places Planet Fitness people go. So this isn't just going to, you know, Orange Theory to try Orange Theory once, or 24-Hour to try 24-Hour once. This is knowing that Planet Fitness shops at Lululemon and Athleta, or gets their groceries at Sprouts and Whole Foods, and never goes to Aldi, or, you know, never goes to Kroger, or whatever the case might be. Oh, and by the way, they buy all their supplements at the Vitamin Shop. So a really nice way for Planet Fitness to acquire net new customers who are not coming from the competition, but who have an affinity for your brand, is simply geofencing Whole Foods, Sprouts, Athleta, Lululemon, Vitamin Shop, or wherever the data tells you they're also going, and then market to those audience and tell them, hey, you know what? We know you're we know you're fitness minded. We know you're thoughtful about how you treat your body. Planet Fitness is the right place for you to bring that to fruition, right? Or come wear all of your great Lululemon apparel. Of course, that would never be a marketing message, but the point is there's an affinity for one brand and another, and this type of location data can ferret out those opportunities for you. So we actually did a study, Reveal Mobile did a study about 6 or 8 months ago, and we asked marketers across a range of verticals, where do you see opportunity for location-based advertising? You know, if you're in gyms, or you're in furniture or electronics or C-stores or auto, whatever the case might be, we ranked the number of marketers who see opportunity for this kind of advertising in their own mix, right, with paid social. And what you're seeing here is for fitness and gyms, 42% of digital marketing leaders said, oh yeah, this would totally work for what we do for a living. But interestingly, only 32% in that same segment were putting their money where their mouth is. So an under investment in this opportunity in gyms and fitness. And frankly, this was characteristic of all the verticals that we surveyed. And the report, actually, the full report is down there at the bottom of your screen. That bit.ly link will take you right to it if you want to get a copy. We talk about cosmetics, we talk about apparel, we talk about food and beverage, any vertical that might be interesting to you. We also talk about all the ways marketers are thinking about and using location-based marketing in their mix. So free report, I'll leave this on the screen for just a second so you can grab the bit.ly. All verticals are thinking about location-based advertising, and if you're in that 42% category conceptually, but in that 32% actively, I would encourage you to think about, again, seeing the opportunity and seizing the opportunity and using location data as a way to really acquire, customers based on the way our shopping habits have changed recently. So with that, I want to talk now about putting a lock around paid social and foot traffic attribution. So there's all types of nuance. And Monica, I invite your comments in the next few portions here. There's all kinds of nuance to attribution. Is it probabilistic? Is it deterministic? Is it mid-campaign? Is it post-flight? There's control groups, exposed groups, any number of variables we could interrogate for the sake of this discussion. But for this example, I want to be very specific and very linear. So it's really easy to follow, frankly, and also makes it easier to do. So let's use, for the sake of this example, the auto industry. And we're going to target auto shoppers, auto intenders, sometimes called. And we want to market to them on Facebook, right? We have a group of dealerships we want to bring them to in the end and put them in our showroom. The end game here is getting people to our showroom to kick the tires and drive the car, right? Better than kick the tires, take it for a test drive. So the first thing we're going to do on the far left of the screen is build the audience. And this is key in terms of what we're going to geofence. So thinking about places car shoppers go, it seems pretty obvious. We would first geofence dealerships, right? Large showrooms, used car lots, new car lots. We can geofence the entire physical entity. And we might also geofence, for the sake of knowing people have cars, we might geofence gas stations too, right? Large stations around the country, and say, okay, or regional even, we're going to now target just these people because we know they have cars, or B, we know they're in market because they visited dealerships. And we're going to extract that audience from this geofencing technology, and we're going to look, let's say we look back a period of time, a month. Give me everybody who's been to a dealership in the last month, and we now have 1 million people in our addressable audience that we can serve ads to. Great, now we have our audience. Take it to Facebook. We're going to upload that list. This is key. Upload that list to Facebook as a custom audience. So we are in effect isolating that list of 1 million members into our total addressable market, right? So Facebook doesn't have everybody on our list, but they have 3/4 of everybody. So we're now going to serve ads to 750,000 people through Facebook, whether it's their mobile device or their laptop. They're going to see our ads because they're in our dedicated custom audience. And we're going to run that ad, and we're going to set our budget. And we're going to do all the things that are important to creative and timing. And then in the background, with that same geofencing capability, we're going to watch what happens to those 1 million mobile ad IDs as they move through time and space. So because they're in our original audience, we're tracking them in the background, and we're seeing where they go, even mid-flight. We don't need to wait for the campaign to wrap up. And by virtue of conversion rates, we're going to say we get a 5% conversion on our 1 million member audience, and 50,000 people have now shown up to our dealership that we care about, or our dealerships, in a DMA that we care about. So we're truly looking at the impact of online spend, in this case on Facebook, to 750,000 people, to the 50,000 who've actually shown up to go drive the van or the truck or the car or whatever the case might be. So a 5% conversion rate, certainly admirable for this type of campaign, especially if your product is selling, at $35,000 or $40,000 a pop. You've got a pretty terrific top line return there. So the reason I wanted to put this out conceptually is just to sort of lay out step 1, building the audience, step 2, isolating the audience on social as a custom upload, and then C, measuring that same audience in terms of that geofencing technology. So it's a very straight line from audience to desired behavior. So
Real
let's
quickly,
wrap up
Dan,
this
sorry.
webinar. Oh, please, Monica, yeah.
But on the slide before, one thing that I'll mention, I saw a few questions coming in.
Good.
One of the, so we talked about the audience serving the ad and measuring visits. In Facebook, some of the questions we get at Sochi is, okay, that sounds great, but I can't just put up one ad, say to use your example, Planet Fitness, Dan.
Yes.
I actually want to drive them to a specific Planet Fitness. So can you do that at scale with Facebook? And the answer is yes. It's actually called it's called store traffic with reach objective. If you pick that objective in Facebook ads, it will allow you to customize your creative. You can pick whatever creative you want, but it'll allow you to customize that creative based on the consumer that sees it to see the appropriate location that's nearest them, right? So if I'm seeing an ad for that Planet Fitness, I'm going to see the location nearest me. And as part of that ad creative, I can create a card with my map and driving directions or some sort of other CTA. So in addition to having the attribution on the back end with store traffic or foot traffic through Reveal, you can also get some of these other clicks and actions that are collected via the ad unit as well. So I just wanted to mention that ad creative is scalable and available through these social channels. Sorry, Dan.
Excellent. No, I'm glad you brought that up, Monica, because it's because there's all types of nuance to the campaign objectives that you're looking to drive, right? So this is not one size fits all, and of course this is not about making one technology force fit into a desired outcome. So I'm glad you brought up that nuance. That's important. The last thing I wanted to walk through is just a concrete campaign example featuring a pizza chain, a regional pizza chain out west called Roundtable. And this is a hypothetical campaign. We didn't run this. We're just using their brand out of, everyone loves pizza, right? And hypothetically, let's say Roundtable wants to go geo-target and Geo Conquest to grow their customer base, right? People are back out in restaurants. Spring is coming. We'll have a nice family dinner. So Roundtable has 400 plus units mostly across the Western US. And using geofencing technology, we can see some really interesting trends around Roundtable's entire system. Their foot traffic is down 6% over the previous 4 weeks for the period. They've got a huge second visit rate. Better than 40% of their diners are coming back a second time within a 4-week window, which is great, but of course, not so great for new customer acquisition. Worst of all, you can see that Pizza Hut, their closest competitors, Pizza Hut and Little Caesars, are killing it with foot traffic in the bottom right-hand corner. Better than 20, almost 30% Pizza Hut seeing in terms of their lift with foot traffic over the previous 4 weeks. Little Caesars is seeing about 18%. And Roundtable, well, they're down 6. They're that green bar below the 0, right? So they've got a problem and they've got to innovate. They've got a couple of business issues to go fix. So what they want to go do is they want to geofence a bunch of locations to hit the numbers that they feel like they need to hit. The first thing they're going to do is keep the people who are coming already, right? So they're going to geofence just as Planet Fitness did. They're going to geofence their own restaurants, and they're going to look back some period of time, I don't know, a month, let's say, and they're going to get about 280,000 opted-in mobile devices that they can serve out to say, hey, you know what, keep coming back. You love Roundtable, we love Roundtable, let's have dinner. The second thing they're going to do is they're going to go hit all the pizza lovers who were going to the wrong restaurant. They're going to go to the Pizza Huts, they're going to go to the Bricks, and they're going to look back, a week, 30 days, whatever they want, and they're going to get 1 million devices and say, you know what, you're going to the wrong restaurant. Come on over to Roundtable. We have better ingredients, we have better prices, we've got a more fun Friday night special menu, whatever the case might be. And then lastly, by virtue of this geofencing technology, they're also going to know that when people aren't in the mood for pizza, they're in the mood for burgers at Fuddruckers. Well, hey, you can't eat burgers every day, right? So when you're not in the mood for a burger, come get a Roundtable pie. That's the key here. So these 3 strategies for Roundtable are really interesting in terms of messaging to unique and discrete audiences with very relevant CTAs. So we're going to take that list now. We're going to download that list from our geofencing platform, and we're going to upload that to Facebook as a custom audience. This is a quick video on how to build a custom audience on Facebook in case you've never done that. It's as simple as uploading a CSV file, as you can see here. And then we're going to serve some really delicious looking creative to our addressable audience. This is probably the ad for people who are going to Pizza Hut, because let's face it, Roundtable's barbecue beef and bacon pizza is way better than anything Pizza Hut can do. So now you're going to choose, as Monica mentioned, you're going to choose the correct ad type. You're going to make sure your CTA is compelling. In this case, we've chosen Shop Now. And we're going to measure the results of this creative, again, back in our geofencing technology. And here's what that looks like. As a result of this hypothetical Facebook campaign, foot traffic is now up 4% over the previous 4 weeks. We've targeted about 1.2 million devices on the far right from about 500,000 households. And again, our 400 plus locations in the bottom right, 433 Roundtable pizzas are in our campaign. But that middle number is really the most important one. out of that Facebook spend and those addressable audiences, we've seen now 72,263 people have dinner or lunch or maybe breakfast if they serve that at Roundtable. So that's really a powerful number in terms of proving the value of this location-based ad spend to your district manager, to your COO, to your CMO, whoever is the stakeholder in this room. And if you multiply that unique conversion number by your average ticket, which of course you're going to do if you're in retail, you've got an easy top line. So Roundtable's now selling $2.5 million in pizza thanks to their Facebook ad spend. And there's no one, I can't imagine anyone spending anything close to that on Facebook in the same period. So you have a terrific ROAS in terms of a very targeted campaign on a very appealing channel with strong creative and super trackable behavior offline. So this is just a hypothetical to give you a feel for what this campaign could look like. And of course, in your own vertical or your own business situation, you can extrapolate, your own reality from this. But this is just to give you a feel for that story, what that might look like. So we do this for a living. One of the things we built, we wanted to give you for free, right? We have a tool that analyzes your foot traffic. So it's a very simple tool. We don't ask for any email addresses. We don't ask for anything in return. It's just a search bar like Google. Visit.revealmobile.com/free. Just make a note of that. And come and search your own franchise, search your own chain. And it's a type ahead. So if you start typing pizza, you'll get Pizza Hut, you'll get Pizza Bingo, you'll get all the pizza places in the country. And what do you get in your report? Well, you get foot traffic volume, you get daily trends, you get the distance traveled to your location from either a home or a workplace. You see the proportion of repeat customers, you're going to see competitive intelligence. So it's really unique reporting that, again, we ask for nothing from you in return. Now, importantly, if you don't get your chain as you type ahead to pop up, hit that blue link at the bottom of the screen there. Don't see the location you're looking for, get a custom foot traffic report. You do need to tell us your email address in that case so we can email it to you once it's ready. But we don't have every single store in our database. 12 million are in there, but yours might not be. So if you want your report, go ahead and hit us up through that mechanism, and we're happy to send that off to you. But this is a tool we built for free because we live and breathe location data, and we want to just make it of service and of use to you in the market. With that, Monica, any closing remarks before we move on to questions, or should we move on to questions?
I think let's move on to questions.
Okay, awesome.
Okay.
Mike, we're ready for you.
Well, great. That was really terrific. As I mentioned earlier, we have some time now for a few questions for the audience. We've got a few really good ones that have already come in. If you've got additional questions, feel free to enter them into the question box and we'll try to get to them. A quick reminder, a copy of today's recording will be sent to all of you via email later today, so keep an eye out for that. Let's get to some of the audience questions, and let's start with this one, which is pretty basic and pretty important. How exact is geofencing? That is, do we know that they went to those specific competitor stores?
The short answer is yes. GPS coordinates are a series of decimal points, right? And the greater number of decimal places to the right of the decimal, the more accurate you're getting. The location data that we're talking about is 5 decimal places. So on the latitude and the longitude, you're getting down to about 1 meter of accuracy. So we know that, if Planet Fitness sits next to the rock climbing gym, we know within a meter of margin of error that you were actually at Planet Fitness and not at the rock climbing gym. So it's really powerful technology.
Okay, so how do you filter out campaigns that have run on other media when you're calculating conversion rates? Did the consumer see an ad on a billboard or CTV versus social, and how do you attribute the conversion?
I'd love to start with this one, Dan.
Please.
I mean, we get that question a lot, and when you're working with foot traffic, I think the best way to try and do that is a test and control. And it's a little bit difficult for marketers sometimes, but when we work with partners and they're concerned about a big campaign they might be running through billboards or someplace else, we would typically want to then, concentrate on markets where that campaign is not going, or maybe a different time frame when that campaign isn't going on. And you're not going to do this perfectly, but if you're able to set up a real test and control, that can be helpful to isolate some of those other campaigns that might, also be, delivering some of that foot traffic, not just from, the Facebook campaign, for instance. But I'm sure you guys do some different things at Reveal Mobile as well, or have some different perspectives there. Dan?
Actually, I would double down on your answer myself. We promote, or we advocate also that test and control model, because ultimately what you're trying to do is you're making sure that the audience you're addressing is the audience you're tracking and measuring. So if you wanted to do, of course, multiple campaigns across multiple channels with the exact same audience, it will muddy your attribution waters for sure. But you've got to figure out what's important to you. And if attribution in the aggregate is important, then frankly, multi-channel is perfectly fine. But if you're looking to prove out the value of a specific channel to say, should we do this a second time, then you're clearly going to want to make sure you isolate an audience to a specific channel or a specific campaign inside of a channel, so that you're knowing, demonstrably that this is a channel worth pursuing in the future or divesting from. So I would exactly echo your response, Monica. Well said.
Okay, great. How are you collecting the store visit information? Can I use this for creating my own matched market tests?
Sure, I'll start with this one. We are building these location-based audiences by virtue of you or I or Monica or anybody on this call having opted in to location services on your mobile device. So at the user level, you have all kinds of apps on your phone for weather, for retail, for dating, whatever the app is, right? For good reason, a lot of those apps are collecting your location data to make your life, frankly, more convenient, right? We all value that. So by virtue of you having opted in at the device level, your phone is now eligible to be in an audience that might come from this kind of technology. You've given permission, essentially, to be advertised to based on your location. So we're working with, effectively, aggregators of this kind of data to go reach tens of millions of tens of millions of devices each day. And then we're building audiences based on either places you specify and time frames you specify, and giving you those audiences. So the user first gives their permission, and then you would go extract the audience based on your specific requirements.
Okay, so what in your targeting and activation strategy prevents a competitor from executing the same exact conquesting and geo-targeting campaign? Are there unique planning capabilities that could create a competitive advantage?
Nothing is stopping them.
Okay.
Right? That's the scary part of the answer. And frankly, they're probably doing it, right? So there are folks out there who are trying to geo conquest your customers with a better price point, a better experience, better customer service, you name it. Why do we change brand, affinity to begin with, right? Convenience, price, experience, trust, friendliness, all these reasons we make these emotional decisions. And if you wanted to mitigate that risk, the best thing you could do to mitigate is just start investing in it yourself. And then, of course, you have to make your own product do the heavy lifting. You have to make your own experience speak on your behalf, right? The data is just getting to the island. Once you're on the island, you've got to build the house and cook the food and make sure the rain doesn't get in. So this is half the battle. But I guess if you're looking to mitigate your exposure, start if you haven't started yet. Anything you'd add to that, Monica?
Yeah, I think getting to the party early is your competitive advantage. I think what we've seen, at least in, sorry for my fuzzy coworkers are barking at something. What we've seen in other programs is, the targeting and the attribution is one thing. The creative is another. So the sooner you can get in and you start leveraging this tactic and refining the creative so that you find kind of that secret sauce to what works best. And it takes a little bit of time to tweak creative in your targeting, but it gets better over time. And the whole time you're building audiences. If you think about Facebook, what Dan said, you can build these custom audiences. The sooner you start, the more audiences you build, the more refined and optimized those audiences can get. And even though you might have this tactic, you're geo-conquesting, now your creative is fine-tuned, you've got a bigger audience, and your competitor can sure jump in, but they're just getting started. So that's the advice I would give you, is start early and continue to test and refine.
Okay, time for a couple more questions here. How can we upload custom audiences into Facebook Ads Manager without opt-in permission?
I
don't know how to do that.
So you shouldn't do that.
Okay, so, I was thinking you were going to say that.
Correct. Yeah. So the good news about Reveal, if you create your custom audience through Reveal, they have already opted in the audience, right? Yes. If you are collecting your own data and you're not sure if it's opted in, I would be very careful there. What I would urge you to do instead is use some of the Facebook targeting, the audience creation that they provide to you. So you could go in today and start conquesting areas of interest and start building an audience via Facebook. And again, Facebook is making sure that people are opted in to share their location info, so you don't have to worry about that. So that's where I would start, or go to a partner like Reveal. But you should be using an opt-in list.
Okay, so here's a related question that builds on that a little bit. How is new iOS privacy affecting location data and opt-in to share data?
I love that question. Let me answer first. I'm going to answer from the advertising opportunity, because iOS 14.5 was a big deal and everybody thought sky was falling, just like COVID. Brick and mortar's dead. iOS 14.5's here, geo-targeting's dead. None of it really happened. I think 14.5 was really important because it gave consumers a lot more, they were informed when their location is being tracked. And that's great, because we all should have the ability to say, yes, keep tracking, or no, don't do that, right? So the reality is, on Facebook, where that impacted is, some of their custom audiences got impacted, but things like geo-conquesting, which is what we're talking a lot about here, was not impacted at all, or geofencing. So let me give you an example. So let's say that I'm not okay with sharing my location data. What that means is Facebook can't share my precise location data. So what Dan just said, down to a meter, or down to even more granular, if I have that accuracy. But apps are still collecting your non-precise location. So that is, but I think it's a 10 mile by 10 mile radius that like a site like Facebook could still collect. So things like geofencing. If I want to hit people and let them know about my offerings in store when they're in and around my store, those work really well. Again, similar, I want to advertise to people that I think have been shopping at other locations. That geofencing technology was not at all impacted by iOS 14.5.
I would add to that. That's a great insight, Monica. I appreciate you surfacing that, because the sky didn't fall, and 15.5 is going to come, and then 16.5 is going to come. So it's just going to keep coming. The fact is we want to give more power to the consumer at the device level. So we applaud the effort to empower the consumer and inform the consumer. The only thing I would add to Monica's point is around match rates. So one of the things we've seen at Reveal is when you take a list of mobile ad IDs and you upload it as a custom audience, you used to get a match rate of 85, 90% sometimes. Facebook would say, okay, we see all these mobile ad IDs. Here are your 90,000 account holders you can go address. Now match rates have dropped on Facebook to more like 40, 50, 60%. So it's still a meaningful volume, but because Facebook is no longer collecting that precise location data, or doesn't have permission, they're struggling to make those match rates as compelling as they used to be. So that's okay. Facebook's not the only game, right? Clearly, there are these upstarts that Monica was talking about. You've got TikTok, which is reaching very meaningful scale. Instagram is, well, frankly, a super smart company that's doing a lot of really great things around location and around personalization. You've also got display. You've also got programmatic ad buys where you can bring these mobile ad IDs to the party and say, okay, I want to meet everybody on CNN.com and the Wall Street Journal and all the places people consume their information via programmatic display, but only serve the ad to these mobile ad IDs that match. So it's not, I know this webinar is about social, but you can take this kind of data to any number of platforms and realize, similar returns. So I just want to make that mention, given the fact that 14.5 is on everyone's minds.
Okay. Well, that was great, and we have a bunch more questions in the queue here, but we're just about out of time, so I think we'll wrap for today. One thing I wanted to mention along those lines, though, is if you asked a question and it did not get answered, don't worry about it. The folks at Reveal and Sochi have received all your questions and can respond to each of you directly after the end of the webinar. Thanks again to Dan and Monica for a great, really informative, thoughtful presentation today, and to the audience for some great questions. We got a lot of questions today. And thanks to all those behind the scenes at Reveal who helped to put all of this together. We hope you found the wealth of information presented helpful and informative. Stay tuned to MediaPost's website and digital publications in your inbox for more informative webinars to come from other MediaPost partners in the weeks and months to come. Thanks so much to all of you for joining us today. We'll see you next time, and stay safe out there. Thank you.
Thank you.